So there's a guy named Shammy who made a video on Overwatch and Paladins. I like Shammy, and I even like his video. It's a thought-provoking video, but I can't ignore that his criticisms of Overwatch aren't so much criticisms as they are qualitative statements, disguised as criticisms. If you haven't seen his video, this one might not make much sense. At first glance, it makes sense to compare Overwatch and Paladins as they're both hero shooters, but they go in wildly different directions. Paladins leading into the MOBA aspect of hero shooters, and Overwatch leaning into the shooting part. The bulk of Shammy's video is describing how Overwatch limits player choice while Paladins allows for player expression. I think that this point is overstated, but it is 100% true. Overwatch is much more limited, and that's why I love it. The first big class-based shooting game, Team Fortress 2, used to be like Overwatch, 9 characters with vastly different abilities, keywords on vastly. But then Team Fortress 2 slowly introduced new items into the game. It started off fine at first, but slowly the integrity of the game was eaten away at. Take the heavy weapons guy for instance, a character with slow movement speed, slow weapon windup, and the need of a medic to sustain damage to his large health pool. In his 3 item slots, however, they added gloves that reduce his health pool for quicker movement speed, a gun with no windup to speak of, and a healing item that allowed him to heal himself. So combine those together, and the essence of what was Heavy Weapons Guy has been taken away from Heavy Weapons Guy. This is frustrating as Team Fortress 2 was designed as a reductionist, class-based shooter. While the new abilities were cool and interesting, they chipped away at the core design of the game. TF2 was a modernist game at launch, from its JC Leiden-Decker-inspired art to its gameplay philosophy of form follows function. Form follows function is the principle associated with modernist architecture and industrial design in the 20th century. The principle is that the shape of a building or object should primarily be based upon its intended function or purpose. So the big fat guy with a big fat gun should be slow and easy to hit, but with lots of health and lots of damage output to compensate. Makes sense, right? TF2 bucked industry trends at launch, being released the same year as Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. COD 4 allowed for endless options and possibilities for weapon loadouts and perk selection, but ultimately there were optimal loadouts, making the possible player expression somewhat fruitless. Now that is not to poo-poo what COD 4 is, just to say that it wasn't for me. TF2 was for me, but it's no longer for me. TF2 embraced design choices that it initially fought against by adding weapons with minor stat changes rather than offering items with big tough choices that you had to make, like some of the early additions to the game did. So that brings us to Overwatch, a game that learned lessons from TF2. Rather than add new items, abilities, and weapons, they instead add new heroes. Those heroes are static in their kits, and I'm so very glad it's that way. I like that playing Winston feels like playing a big, giant gorilla with a jetpack. I don't want to customize my big, giant gorilla with a jetpack. I just want to play as a big, giant gorilla with a jetpack. That's what hero shooter means to me. Likewise, when I see an enemy big, giant gorilla with a jetpack on the field, I don't want to do the guesswork of trying to figure out which loadout of big, giant gorilla with a jetpack it is. Is that an eastern lowland gorilla that can one-shot me with its pounce due to its increased weight, or a cross-river gorilla with its increased ultimate charge speed? Is that the Horizon Looter Mega Jumper Supreme jetpack with its faster cooldown time, or the Himalayan wheatgrass-fueled Eco Booster with its reduced carbon emissions? Is that the Tesla cannon with less ammo and higher damage output that can take out tracers in less than a second? Some might like these options, but I don't like guessing. It makes for an unsure player environment. I want form follows function. The big giant gorilla with a jetpack can do what big giant gorillas with jetpacks can do. The only guesswork is reading the mind of the person at the other end of the series of tubes. This is called Yoni, which is Japanese for reading the mind of the enemy big giant gorilla with a jetpack. Now here's the funny thing. I'd always meant to play Paladins, but I never got around to it. I always thought Paladins was a free-to-play Overwatch clone. I didn't think this in a negative way, like I said, I wanted to play it. But watching Shammy's video let me know just how much of a MOBA Paladins was at its core. I didn't know players customize their hero loadouts and whatnot. Now I have zero interest in Paladins, and that's not because Paladins looks bad, it's just not my genre of game. I don't enjoy those kinds of player choices. I get the reason why people like games like Paladins and MOBAs, but I don't find those qualities in games fun. They're profoundly unfun to someone like me. Here are my final thoughts. I'm not going to defend every design choice of Overwatch or say that it's a game for everyone. I just want to be clear about what Overwatch is and isn't. Overwatch is a hero shooter. You pick a hero, and you play that hero in the way that fits that hero. This is as limiting of a concept as your perspective suggests. To me, it's not very limiting at all. It is limiting to someone who desires those in real-time RPG elements that you find in MOBAs. Overwatch isn't a MOBA. It's a shooting game made by a company known for its MOBAs, RPGs, and RTSs. It's taken inspiration from MOBAs, but it isn't one. No more than it's a fighting game because of the character Doomfist, or a Jet Set Radio clone because of Lucio, or a dating sim because I want to bone Sombra. Overwatch is a flying lesbian simulator, however. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, and thanks to Shammy for making a thought-provoking video. I just wish he had better taste and the right opinions is all. If you enjoyed this content, please know that it is not at all what my normal content is like, but I would, however, suggest that you check out my friend Soberdor's channel. There's a link in the description to our collaboration video discussing the design behind Resident Evil 1 Remake. I'm interested in game design, but that's not what this channel is about. I just had to get this idea out there.